have Lauren Cox with us, which is actually super exciting. We are childhood friends that I've known for a long time. So I'm excited to reconnect with her and just hear her journey and just kind of hear everything that's been going on because we obviously haven't seen each other in many, many years. So we're excited that you're on the podcast with us.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. And thanks for having me. And yes, it's so great to reconnect. And, it's so fun seeing friends all the way back from, middle school and all the things and kind of
Oh,
connecting on our journey. So really appreciate the time, guys.
thank
Absolutely.
you.
It's so crazy. All three of us are here because of infertility. So right,
Right. All
right,
reconnected that way. Like it's
right, not a
I
club. We
stopped
wanted
like we weren't friends during, like college and all that, and then like adulthood, and then reconnect because of this, which is crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah,
crazy.
not a club we wanted to be in, but, we're here
We're
now.
here.
No,
Yeah. So Lauren, for you, when did I guess you would call it infertility journey. When did that start for you guys?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So honestly, I might go back a little bit to kind of where I first even had, looking back, issues, I guess, that started. So honestly, back when I was like 15, I could say I started to see like some issues beginning. So that was kind of around the time my cycle started. I had like recurring ovarian cyst issues, and I had pelvic pain essentially. So I was put on birth control, which I think a lot of us were. And that was kind of the answer to that. And it really did help. But I was on that for, I want to say around 8 years. And I went through a lot of different doctors trying to figure out what was happening. My pain did get a lot better on the birth control, but I still felt like there were times I would go off of it and I would still have some, pain and some issues. So after that, I went from doctor to doctor, and then they kind of were like, well, there's a potential you could have endometriosis. It was mentioned to me one time, but they weren't, sure. And they said that the cure for it or the treatment for it would be birth control anyway. So there really wasn't a reason for me to kind of go down that route. So I continued on. I went to college. I met my husband at the time we were dating, and I continued to have, some pain intermittently, but I really started to like learn more about just like healthcare and like I guess drug companies and like birth control and all of this stuff. And so I started kind of doing a deep dive of holistic health, really. And so I or I actually read a book about sugar, which is like, it was called The Glucose Goddess. And I learned a lot about like sugar and digestion and all of the stuff, and started really waking up to like hormones and what our lifestyle and stress can do to those and stuff. So anyways, it was a whole journey, and I went down that route, did a lot of research, and I ended up deciding to go off of all medication. So I dropped birth control, I dropped every medicine that I was taking. I kind of led more of a holistic lifestyle, cut plastics, did new like soaps and all the things, you name it.
Which is so cool. I'm just going to try maybe because I feel like so many of us do that while we're going through the infertility side of it because we're just so desperate to try like anything that could potentially be like the cause. So it's really cool that you were starting that just even for your own, just like body itself, not the infertility side. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, and that's something I've learned too. So many women are going through that and kind of making changes. So yeah, I started doing that, dropped like no antibiotics, no Tylenol, nothing anymore. So then from there, I'm trying to think, I did a bunch of testing. So so my pelvic pain was continuing. I did a ton of tests. I did like a CT scan of my abdomen. They looked at pretty much every organ. They're like, everything's great. I was like, okay, well, then that's not that. They did a colonoscopy, an endoscopy, all came back great. So no problems, like nothing at all. And they were like, I had a pretty stressful job. So they were like, it could be your stress, it could be your anxiety, those can cause some, not so good things. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's that. Um, I continue to have pain. We got married in 2019. We started trying to have kids, and it just wasn't, we wasn't successful. It's a long journey. And so, kind of back to the drawing board, I went to a functional medicine doctor. And that's kind of where I am now. Like I go to a functional medicine and then obviously, infertility, but he actually did like a full workup, and we did like every like stool testing, like adrenal testing, stress testing, like everything. And I actually found out some cool things. So one thing that's really interesting is like my cortisol is super high in the morning. So they told me to work out in the afternoon. So like don't work out in the morning. I was like, I would have never known that. So stuff like that. And they looked at everything holistically, and he was like, you do have like higher inflammation. So we did like a whole protocol. I actually did a 16-week protocol where I had to eliminate everything. So it was like no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, caffeine, tomatoes,
15
potatoes.
weeks is a long time. I'm really bad at math. I was trying to get my calculator. How many months is that?
It was 4,
4 months.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
including Thanksgiving. Yep. So
Oh no. Oh my gosh, that stinks. But like
it was
they were
terrible.
trying. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to cut everything, and it was just, one of those things that I was willing to do anything at this point. Like I did see some improvements, just overall health, like incredible, like, no brain fog, inflammation down, like all these things, right? But I didn't see a drastic change in my pelvic pain at this point. So continued to figure it out. And then at that point, I decided I had exhausted everything from Western medicine to functional medicine. And I was pretty sure I was going to do a laparoscopy. So I ended up having a laparoscopy, and I'm trying to think back. I think it was early 2023 is when I did it. And yeah, so I went in, and I'm sure most people listening probably know what that is, but they kind of just do like an incision. They did an incision on my belly button and over my ovaries, and then like go in and with a camera and like different tools. And I actually did an ablation. So an ablation laparoscopy, and they removed or they went in looking for endometriosis, and they ended up finding it. So they removed it, they cauterized it, and then they also took some a chocolate cyst, I think is what it's called. So they removed different adhesions and stuff like that. But I'll never forget my doctor, when I woke up, she was like, I have good news and bad news, and which one do you want? And I said, the bad news. And she said, the bad news is you have endometriosis. And the good news is that you finally have a diagnosis after,
Isn't it, don't they say that it takes an average of 10 years to get diagnosed with endo? And
yes.
yeah, and you said at 15 is when you started having this pain. And like, I heard you say earlier that you had a colonoscopy, which I think for like anybody, that's pretty invasive. And so it's like, I'm so surprised that they wanted to do that, yet they weren't going to do the lab.
I know. And I think like it was crazy because they felt like birth control was the answer, but once birth control was off the table for me, then
Right.
that wasn't the answer. And so it became back to the drawing board. And I understood, like, I did like their approach in saying, laparoscopies can be invasive.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm probably saying it wrong. I think it's like laparoscopy or something. I don't even know.
No, I've only heard it the way you said it, but like,
Coffee.
I
Yeah, I
think
think you're
like,
right. Yeah.
I mean, that's so impressive. I think it's so cool to talk about this for a second, just because like Amanda and I haven't done that because it's scary, right? Like it's a scary situation, but it's very likely, especially because I don't have any answers, that maybe that is something that I have. So that's so cool that like you were offered that and then that you also did it.
Yeah, no, and I'm I recommend it if it's something that, your journey takes you to, because it took me so many years to and you have to push for it, right? You have to advocate for yourself in a lot of ways. But was it ideal from a money standpoint? No. But these days you're hitting your deductible anyways, and you're maxing your insurance with your other fertility treatments. So
And
like,
after 10 years of, yeah, trying all these other things, it's probably equals the same thing. But you're so right. I remember after, I don't know, my loss after my daughter, I literally texted my physician, do you think this could be endo? Can I have a lap? And she's like, that's irrelevant. Like, even if you had a lap, we wouldn't, I mean, it's just, you kind of get shut down. And
Well, that's
I
what
don't know.
mine did.
Yeah, Amanda too.
Yeah, because I did what is it called? Where they said that it looks like I have endo. And
Receptive.
yeah, the receptive
oh, right. Yeah.
testing. I can't say it, but they said they don't recommend it. So they just put me on Lupron to basically just like shush it and not did the surgery. She said that she did not recommend it. So,
And I
yeah.
think it's probably different, and then we can keep jumping into your story, but I think it's different if it's like silent endo, because for you, you were in like daily pain. But
Yeah.
like for Amanda and I, we're like, oh, I don't have that. So then they're probably
So
just like,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
just deal with it while you try to have a kid. But anyways, okay, so you had your
Yeah.
laparoscopy, found out you had endo, had it removed. When was this?
Yeah.
2023?
Early 2023. Yeah. And I will say I have like a list of things that I was gonna mention towards the end about like just things I've learned, but real quick plug. I didn't realize that there was a difference between an excision and an ablation laparoscopy, right? I was under the impression I'm gonna be put under, I'm gonna wake up and they're not gonna find anything because I've done that for years, every time. And I knew I had pain, but I started to believe that maybe it was in my head, and maybe this isn't real. Like maybe this is stress, maybe this is anxiety and stuff. And so um, there is a difference between excision and ablation in that an excision, to my understanding, is that they remove it at the root. And there's some specialized doctors who can do that. An ablation for me was like, I told her before I went under, if you find it, I want you to remove it, but don't go too invasive. Like if it's something that's, a risk, I don't want it removed kind of thing. And an ablation is not as invasive as an excision. So just want to put that out there. If you have endo, consider both and what would make most sense for you. So, but yeah, so that was that. She did do 2 HSGs while I was under, and those are where you do the dye test through your tubes. And my left tube was blocked. So that's what I learned. I learned that I had it and that my left tube was blocked. So from
Was
there,
this
Big
the
answers.
first? I know
Yeah.
we're both like, was your laparoscopy like the first? Because typically, like, so for me and maybe to Amanda, like the very first test or procedure I had done was an HSG. But were you kind of working more like with your pain, and so it was like lap, and then this was the first time you did the HSG?
yes, yep. And I think I ended up having, I want to say I've done 4 HSGs total or something through my journey, but yes, that was the first. I guess call it twice, but it's because she did the dye test twice to make sure it was blocked,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that was that. Then from there, fast track kind of to infertility. So she basically recommended that we don't continue to try because I was a high risk for ectopic, and referred me to a doctor here in Charlotte, a practice fertility clinic. And I had my consultation, and we kind of, went through everything. Um, he recommended IVF, did not recommend IUI, again, due to ectopic risk. And then he looked at like the pictures and saw the tube and was like, yep, it's, blocked. But I just had this feeling that because he mentioned removing the tube if I did IVF, which I was so surprised about because I'm like, I thought we
That
were
was
skipping the
literally
tube.
my next question of like, did they not want to remove the tube or yeah,
They did. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're skipping the tubes. I can keep it, right? But
right.
no, because you're at a high risk for ectopic, even with IVF.
Why is that? Do you know?
I don't fully, but I think it's just because it can dislodge the same way it does in a natural, but you're
Tubes kind of
kind of
like,
putting it in with a like a
like
catheter. And I don't know if it just can dislodge more easy or if it's just about the same with a natural, but it's still a risk of ectopic.
Wow.
Um,
scary. You're kind of going in just like, okay, so now I have to do IVF and I have to worry
Possibly
about
a
the topic.
surgery. Yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of the background, but I just had this feeling like, is it really blocked? Like, is it, So I asked him if I could do another HSG awake because I just wanted to confirm before I made any decisions. And then I said, I want to revisit the IUI conversation after that. And he said, yeah, of course. So we did HSG. Turns out it was actually partially occluded in that run. So when I was under, for some reason, it was blocked, right? She did it twice. When I was awake, it was partially occluded. So meaning some of the dye got through,
Yeah.
which changed the whole game because now I don't have to remove a tube,
Which is a huge
That's
surgery and it's a
insane.
lifelong, I mean, it's a forever thing.
Exactly. So we were just, such a blessing for us. Didn't remove the tube and then revisited the IUI conversation. Still wasn't a recommendation for us, but we kind of pushed it. We really wanted to try IUI, and they said you can try IUI if you ovulate on the right side. So not your left tube is partially blocked. If you ovulate on your right, okay. So set up IUI, did IUI, checked my right. I was ovulating my right. Perfect. Did the
Oh,
protocol. What the hard part is, and this is crazy, I learned this. So I went in, we did the trigger shot. The next day you go in for the IUI procedure. They pulled me in a room. They're like, we're so sorry, but we can't go through with the IUI. Why? And they said, your husband's count is at 0. And I was like,
wait,
what?
what?
Because we've done 2 analysis in the past 2 months leading up to this, and it was great. And honestly, no signs of
There was
any,
no issues at all.
no. And so
Wow.
I'm like, and so then they start asking me like, has he been in a sauna? Has he been in a hot tub? And I'm like, why does that? I didn't realize that mattered, right? Because I'm so new to all of this.
Right.
And then they're like, has he had a fever? And I was like, actually, he was sick last week.
I was literally gonna say the fever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a
So
thing that I knew the hot tub and stuff, but I didn't know sickness.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's why, and I think
wild.
Lauren, you and I talked about this. So like Josh got COVID right before we did our egg retrieval, and I was freaking out because they like fever, sickness, it just can go that quick. I didn't know it could go to 0.
Yeah. And that, gosh, COVID, that would have me just
Yeah.
flipping
That
up
was
and down. I don't know
terrifying.
what I would do. Yeah. And what a scary time. But yeah, I guess he got a fever, and it took, so they're like, we're really sorry, we can't do this IUI. And they said, and then to not make, matters worse, it can take 2 to 3 months for it to build back up. I literally was like, at this time, I think my life's over, right? I'm
Oh,
Yeah.
devastated because
Oh
it's
yeah.
just so hard to hear.
yeah.
And then like having, okay, me, I would be so resentful, even though like he didn't like get a
Yes, but I would be like, you.
I know, I know. I was like, okay, you gotta hold it together, because I like, we don't go out. Like, we're not like the really go out people much. And I'm like, he caught it at work for sure, but it's
poor
just,
guy.
yeah. And he never gets sick. This is the first time he's been sick in years. So
God.
Of course,
anyway,
the timing. Oh my goodness,
yeah.
that is wild.
Yeah. So then from there, we just did another IUI because obviously that one failed, and we did it, able to do it, but it wasn't successful. So at that point, it was kind of like, all right, your success rates are probably like below 2% with this. You should do IVF. And so we were on the road to IVF at that point. So yeah, it's crazy. So I'm trying to think when that started. I did my egg retrieval 2023, probably early summer maybe. And so this was good and bad. So really good, very blessed, because I think I had like 40 follicles, and they got,
Jeez.
I know, I mean, looking back, there's so many blessings in this journey, like so many. So we got 40 follicles, 25 eggs retrieved, 20 mature, which was awesome.
Yeah,
And
incredible.
we, now with that, with great result, I had a really bad reaction to the medication. So I got something called OHSS from it,
Oh, you
which
were
I didn't
thinking,
know.
oh my gosh.
So
See,
this was,
I was gonna say that's so funny. Like somebody like me, I was like, I'm gonna get OHSS. I'm gonna get 20 eggs. I was gonna be amazed because I was getting pregnant every month, and then like I didn't even get 10 eggs. Like it was like, so you probably were like not thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have great outcomes because you just had this bad news the whole time.
exactly. I had no clue what to expect. So yeah, we did it, and this might have been like the hardest physical part of my journey was the egg retrieval. And I don't mean that to induce fear, because I know a lot of people get egg retrievals and they're totally
Yeah.
fine. It's very common. And I think it's just how my body I have to remember, like, I was holistic before this. I didn't take any medications. And then I went and just took like every medication at once, right?
Yes.
So I did that, and it actually, so the OHSS got so bad, but I was just like thinking, oh, this is normal. Like, I should be in this terrible pain and not able to like get out of bed for 5 days. And then I eventually went to my doctor, and they scanned me, and I had like a lot of fluid and internal, I guess, bleeding. So then they had to do what's called a paracentesis. which they
Like take
basically
the fluid out, right?
they drain your third cavity of your abdomen. So I actually had to do it twice, which was wild, but they drained 3 liters of like buckets, like
Oh
that
my
big
God.
That is
like
Did you
blood,
did
essentially.
you look like you had just like a bowling ball in your stomach too? Like I hear that with women with OHSS.
Yeah, I looked about like what I would consider like 6 months pregnant. It was crazy.
I've heard that's like a really hard mental thing to do too, especially when you're going through an egg retrieval and then you look like you're pregnant and
Yeah. So that was hard, but just because the procedures were painful, but it was, I was already in so much pain that once it was over, I was good to go. So yeah, I would say that was probably the height of my pain and the journey. But then from there, again, I was so blessed with the outcome. And then we moved on to IVF cycles. And I like had to write notes because I'm like going all the way back to this process. So with IVF, you have to make a lot of decisions. And so for us, we took a really conservative approach to IVF. So we got the 20 eggs, but we didn't fertilize all of them. We only wanted to fertilize the amount that we wanted to either transfer or that we would be willing to give up for adoption. And so that was kind of our approach initially. And then we also didn't do any PGT testing. We just wanted to keep all of them and have the option for adoption. Because one thing I learned, and I don't think it's the case maybe everywhere, but if you do have a PGT test come back abnormal, it makes it more difficult to be able to, donate or give them up for adoption. So that was just, a personal decision. So we did that, and we ended up fertilizing 6 off the bat, and we got 4, which was amazing. And they said, you can expect around 50%. So we were really happy with 4. And they were all decent grades, right? It was like 4AA, 4AA, 4AB, and 3AA, I think it was. So we were just very
so
thrilled.
you're so how long did it take for your husband's sperm to come back?
Oh, it like 30 days. It
Yeah,
was, yeah.
that's
fine.
great.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was amazing. So we did those were, I guess, the embryos that we had, and then transferred the best one first for AA embryo. And this, I'm trying to think, like, would it be helpful to like say that the protocol was, or
Yeah, whatever. I think
okay.
people that
But
I
yeah,
know, I think people like take notes when they listen to these episodes. Like, okay, how did she do that?
yeah. What is she
Okay, yeah.
saying? What is it? Yeah.
Okay, so transfer 1, I'll just like give some background. So transfer 1 is a medicated frozen cycle. So I did estrogen pills, patches, progesterone, and oil shots starting 6 days before transfer. And then I did 4 days of prednisone and then a baby aspirin. So every time I say medicated frozen cycle, that's what my protocol was.
Okay, can I ask about the prednisone because that's something I've always
Totally.
wanted. Why did they do prednisone? You're doing it this time. I feel like they do it after failed transfers. Why did you get it in the beginning? Do you know?
I don't, that was what he did, like his protocol, but it was 4 days. So it's like 2 days before transfer, the day of transfer, day after. And it's my understanding just to like reduce inflammation.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
I
Yeah.
think
Amazing. If that's
yeah,
the standard protocol, that's
I know
awesome.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. I've always wanted prednisone just because I like with recurrent loss, I just chalk it up to inflammation. That's awesome. Okay, sorry to
100%.
derail.
No, no, not at all. We transferred a 4AA embryo, untested, and 8 days later, I was pregnant, at the beta, and I was so happy. Like this is my first transfer. I understood that I was beyond blessed to get the amount of eggs I had. I interacted with women who have had so many struggles throughout infertility, and I just cannot express how thankful and blessed I felt. And then for me to be pregnant on the first transfer was like a dream, right? It's just a dream. So from there, everything was great. Like I was told my husband, told our family, told my closest friends, like da da da. And at 5 weeks, I started like having a lot of bleeding. And I, of course, am thinking the worst. Panicked. My sister's a PA. I call her. she's like, listen, there's somebody on Instagram, influencer, and she's had something called a hematoma, and like she went on to have a normal pregnancy. Don't jump to conclusions. So I call my doctor. They tell me to just like wait it out. Really, there's not much they can do because it's still early enough that they can't really scan. I mean, they can, but there's not much they can show you.
Yeah.
So they said, come in at, your first appointment for probably like 6.5 weeks. If things get really bad before then, let us know. So one of my best friends was getting married. It was a Friday. I woke up and it was very bad, not good. And I was not here. I was in Greensboro. And so luckily my doctor has an office there. So I text him and like, he's amazing. He answers text messages. I text him and I'm like, hey, I, need to be seen. And he said, go as soon as you can. And so they got me in and they scanned me and they said like everything was there. There was a baby yolk sac, flicker of a heartbeat.
Wow.
And but there was a subchorionic hematoma and it was threatening the pregnancy. And the way I knew this is because usually you see a gestational sac, it's a big black circle. Mine was like a zigzag, like a jack-o'-lantern's mouth, like it was very skinny. And they're like, it's a 50-50 shot here. And so I kind of went home. I was able to go to the wedding, be in the wedding. And then the day after, I started to miscarry. So got home, continued, and then I ended up having a missed miscarriage. And it was really hard because I had to have a DNC and a hysteroscopy, and they take like a sample
Yeah.
of the remains, and they tested it, and it was a little boy, and it was a normal baby. And
Knowing
it
that
was just that hematoma.
knowing the gender and like knowing that they were that's just always been really hard for me to know. And
Yeah,
so
I think the gender like
Got you.
it
hit,
makes it real. It like makes it like real. It's like
Our
this was
real baby. This is our boy.
yeah.
this
Yeah.
is our boy. Yeah. So that was the first transfer. And yeah, and I know you guys have been through so much and so many losses. So like you guys understand. And I think so many people out there, it's a lot more common than we even know. And
Right.
but yeah, just a hard thing. So from there I did an SHG, which is like a saline, I call it like a saline wash, but they kind of cleared everything out after the DNC and hysteroscopy. And then we went kind of, once my HED dropped, because it takes time to go back down, went into another cycle, a transfer. So that's transfer two. Again, it was medicated frozen cycle for AA, embryo, untested. And then I got pregnant, 8 days later, pregnancy test, get the call. And about 5 weeks, a chemical miscarriage this time. So, and I just want to provide a little background. I've heard some stories on your podcast, but as you guys know, because there's just this whole stigma of like chemical versus miscarriage, and so I wanted to kind of give a little background of what that looks like. It's difficult because you're in any pregnancy, when you find out, it's just so exciting. And then also with infertility, there's just such this buildup, and you're on medications starting day 2 of your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly going in and out for blood work. You're doing scans. This isn't just like a couple of day thing, right? It's a very long time. And then you get the call, you've been on progesterone and oil shots, and you have to continue them, and you'll get a beta. Like I got a beta call and they're like, it's great, your beta's great. Next call, it's great, it's doubling. Next call, it's not doubling the same, or it dropped a little. This whole time you're on medications, this whole time your family's invested, this whole time your friends are texting you like, congratulations. It's just a huge, I just think there's a thing about chemical, like there's a huge loss there. And so I just opened my heart to everybody who's going through chemical pregnancies. So
I love that you shared all that. I think because I work in the field, like the only reason they call them chemical is just because they clinically cannot be seen on the ultrasound. But that's really the only difference that it makes. And like you just said that so well of like, it's still like when you find out, you're just as excited when you find out with like anybody that's had a full-term pregnancy. Like there's no difference there.
But I feel like
Exactly.
they treat it
Yep.
so differently. I just know even from my experience, my two different losses, I mean, and not even like to bash anyone in my family or friends, but like everyone treated it differently. It's like
Yeah.
they didn't understand, they didn't know really the difference, I guess, or like what they think is the difference was like it just wasn't the same, it wasn't like a true pregnancy, but obviously that's not the case.
Yeah, every baby in this world starts at 4, 5, 6 weeks. Like they're all that big. And so yeah, I just think especially I think the word chemical makes it seem like, oh, it wasn't real, but it absolutely is. It's just how they define it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it's like, everybody has their own beliefs. So for me, I'm like, I'm gonna meet this child in heaven one day, right? And so it's hard. So sorry.
No,
I'm really
yeah,
emotional over here.
no, I'm sure. And again, like Amanda and I are super sorry for both of your losses, but I think you said that so well. And I think a chemical pregnancy, which I know actually all three of us have had through IVF. My one IVF was also chemical. And like, I think that makes people maybe look at it different. Like you had a literal embryo put in your uterus. Like it wasn't that like oh gosh, I've had a doctor be like, you're getting false positives. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm literally, you have to have HCG to get pregnant. But I just think through IVF, like the way, and I'm sure you've thought about it, is like that embryo is the same as any of my other embryos. Like it was a baby.
I know
Absolutely.
too. I don't know if you found out the gender of that one too, but
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. I did for others, but not that. Yeah. But I'm sorry, guys. I hate that we're in this club.
I know. I know.
Uh,
So
so
after two losses, I mean, I think Amanda and I handled it differently, maybe not, but like I was like, I have to be pregnant yesterday. Whereas I think Amanda, you were like, were you the same way, or were you kind of like, I need to heal and then I can get pregnant?
I think it was different for both of them. So the second one, I was like, I need to just be pregnant like ASAP. Like I just want to move on to the next thing. But the first one, I was not.
I totally get that. Yeah, for me, I'm like, I don't know what got into me, but I was like, on to the next.
Yeah. Yeah, you just don't
Always
give
Whatever I have to
stop.
do.
it makes you like have the, or it made me have like this desire, like now that I've miscarried, oh my God, I have to be pregnant. And
Like
for
it's
you, Lauren,
on.
yeah, you have two more embryos, so you're probably like, let's go.
Oh, yes, I was. So then the next one was transfer 3. And I'll try to go like quicker, but this one actually is going to be a little bit longer.
No,
Apologies.
you're
There'll be
fine.
quicker ones down the road.
You're fine.
Okay, transfer 3, medicated frozen, 4AB, 3AA embryo. Get a call, pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing.
Can I just add before you, at this point, is your doctor not like wanting to change any of your protocols or like it? Because I hear you keep saying medicated cycle and no medicine has changed up to this point.
Yeah, so he did change throughout, but the first one was like medicated. I don't really know how your body works. This is probably the best way to do it. You got pregnant, you only lost because of this hematoma. This would have carried on. Second, abnormal, or sorry, not abnormal, chemical. So potentially wasn't abnormal since I did PGT test. It's hard to know, but it did implant. So in his mind, he's like, Medicated's working for you because the first one worked. So he's like, let's continue that until we have reason to not, if that makes sense. So that's a great question. So yeah, we did medicated. So I get pregnant. I'm feeling so sick at 3.5 weeks, like so nauseous. And I go in for my first ultrasound. I pushed it back a little bit because I wasn't having any like symptoms or bleeding or anything. So I went in at 7 weeks. And so we transferred 2 this time. And so I'm like,
So you're
my eyes
fine
are
with
looking
two,
at this.
right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
fine with two?
yeah. I transferred 2 and I'm like, okay, looking at the screen, do I have 2 black circles? That's like all I'm looking for, right?
Well, especially if you're like thinking you're more nauseous this time, and yeah.
So nauseous, like right off the bat. So I'm like looking and I only see one and I'm like, okay, it's still a huge blessing, right? So they start to look, they're kind of digging through, and then they get to the corner and they're like, oh, we see, the baby. Um, I think it was like 105 heartbeat, and like got everything, got pictures of it, yolk sac, everything. And then they keep going and then they're like, oh my gosh, there's another one. And it's in the same sac. So I'm like,
Oh,
I feel like I'm in a dream. I'm like, this is identical twins. And one of them split. And I like break down because I'm like, sorry. Through this whole journey, I'm like, am I making the right decisions? Am I doing the right things? Am I like playing God? I've heard all of these things from people. And I like prayed to God and I said, if you're in this, like, can you show me like that you're in this, right? And I had this moment of like, that wasn't transferred, like that was created, like that was God, like this is an identical twin. God's here. And it was probably one of the best days of our life, And so we had two heartbeats, 105, 106, and they were like, we just need to see you because it's kind of high risk with identical twins, probably weekly and with like your history. So I went in my second ultrasound. Well, after I told not everybody, I told my closest friends, my mom, my mother-in-law, like everybody.
yeah.
And going for 8 weeks, and everything was really hard to see on the ultrasound. Everything's like on top of each other. And they're like, we're having a hard time. It's like in the corner, we're having a hard time seeing it, but we're only seeing one baby. And I was like, really like and I was really upset. We were both upset, but we're also like really thankful that they're still seeing one. And so they just got one heartbeat at 150, but they weren't sure because it was kind of on top of each other. So we didn't really have any answers. There can be a couple things. They could have incorrectly seen a twin the first time. That was hard for us to talk about because I saw it with my own eyes. I saw two yolk sacs. I saw two baby. Like I have a video on my phone of it. So
Yeah.
I can't really get behind that thought.
And especially because it was so meaningful to you and something that you had prayed for. Yeah.
Yeah. And then two, it could be that it's a vanishing twin, which is, I want to say up to 30% twins that are like vanished. So it could very well. So we were just very thankful to have one baby with a strong heartbeat at 150 at 8 weeks. He said, we'll see you back in a week. Went back a little after 9 weeks, and baby's like fully formed and everything, but there wasn't a heartbeat. And that was hard. That was really hard. It felt like we were on top of the world and then just like on the floor.
And especially at 9 weeks too. I mean, not to mention everything you had gone through for the last several years, but like I think people kind of if you Google and they say like once you hear a heartbeat, the miscarriage rate drops significantly. So you probably felt like we're good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm reading statistics that are like less than 3%.
Wow.
I'm thinking this is it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, found that out. I just didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, they give you your options immediately. Do you want
Yeah.
DNC? Do you want a pill? Do you want, what is your next step? And I'm like, my next step is I need to see this again, or I need a second opinion.
Mhm.
So came back. They were like, absolutely, come back in a week. We did, and confirmed, right? So 10 and a half or 10 weeks confirmed. And then I had a DNC and hysteroscopy at 10 and a half weeks because my body did not recognize it. I was sick from 3.5 weeks till the day I had that procedure. Nauseous and
Wow.
sick. Yeah.
That is so difficult.
Yeah. That was really hard. Because I was like, I knew for like at least a week that I potentially was carrying a baby that had no heartbeat,
Right.
but I felt completely pregnant. I didn't lose a symptom.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's
I'm so
it's
sorry.
all right. Yeah. It was really hard, but all of us have been through hard stuff. So
So at this point too, like you guys have used your 4 embryos.
we absolutely had. And then we did test that, and actually the one that they were able to test was abnormal, with trisomy 18, which they explained to me as a fluke. It's nothing genetic. It can happen
Yeah.
to anybody at any time.
Did that give you, and I think people have different opinions on this, and I mean, I don't know how all three of us feel, but like, did that, I don't want to say hope, but did that give you like, okay, my body did what it was supposed to do this time, and like, no matter whose body this baby was in, it wasn't going to continue to grow?
Yes, in a lot of ways. And I think because I could compare it to the first one where it was normal, like a normal baby that it was almost easier to hear. It was a hard, very, very hard loss, but it was easier to hear that it wasn't something that, I had done or
Right.
I could really change. And that was
Right.
destiny. That's like what God's plan was. So that was easier, for sure. So yeah, then we're out of embryos, right? And then so we go back to the lab, and this time we do 8 because we did 6 before, we did 8, realizing that it's not going to be as easy as we thought this was going to be.
Right.
So we got 5 of the 8, which was amazing. We got 4AA, 3AB, 3AB, 3BB, and 3CC. So went into transfer 4, and these were all like pick up quicker, but medicated, but fresh cycle. So he changed.
Oh, well,
Wow.
that's because you didn't have OHSS this time.
Exactly. So we didn't have that. We weren't up against that. He did want to add additional medicine, but I'm always so nervous. So he added Neupogen. And then I took prednisone every single day instead of for 4 days.
And the Neupogen, is that like some sort of wash? Like I don't know how to say it.
A lot of people do Neupogen loss or washes, but for me it was a shot. So I just did an injection. I want to say I did it the morning of
Yeah.
or either that or the day before, but and we transferred a 4AA and a 3AB, so 2 again for 4th transfer. I did acupuncture. What I did not get pregnant. So
Gosh, that has to be so hard because you're like, I've had success. That's not the problem. It's like now I don't even get pregnant.
yeah, and both didn't stick. And he was like, okay, what is that? What was it? The
Yeah.
difference, it was a fresh cycle. I don't know. It could have been my body. I will say I typically transferred around day like 20, 19, 21-ish. This one I was nervous because it got pushed back to like 23. And
Yeah.
that's like really on the cusp of, I don't know. I felt like it was late. He still felt good about the lining and everything, but it just felt a little off. So who knows what it was, but
Goodness.
that's what
Gosh, like you've tried 6 times,
yeah.
like with all 6 embryos. Wow.
Yes. So then from there, we're like officially RPL, like recurring pregnancy loss category, unexplained fertility other than endometriosis, but I've had multiple hysteroscopies, so there's no endo in my uterus. So there's nothing like really preventing IVF from working at this point. So we do RPL blood testing and karyotypes on both of us. Everything comes back normal except for one test. I tested positive for PAI 4G, which I guess is consistent with a blood clotting disorder. So it doesn't mean I have a blood clotting disorder. It just can be consistent with it. So he's like, okay, that's good. We're going to add blood thinners. So I was like,
Everyone's favorite Lovenox or baby aspirin.
yeah, right. All the things. So then I did an SHD again, a saline wash to like clear everything out. Then transfer number 5. I did medicated transfer, and we added heparin. So I did 2 shots. So I did progesterone oil shots each day, 2 shots of heparin morning and night. So heparin is like Lovenox, but
Yeah.
think
I don't
it's
really honestly don't know the difference. I feel like people that are on heparin end up doing it their whole pregnancy and then they'll do it at like postpartum. I don't know the exact difference between the two, but they're the same reason.
yeah, I don't either. But I asked him about both. He said, you can do both, or not at the same time, but you could do either. Not both, do not recommend.
Yeah.
So then we transferred a 3AB and a 3BB. And I got pregnant and it was chemical at 4.4.5 weeks. So this one was a little bit quicker in that my HEG wasn't as like high. Like a lot of my HEGs were above 100 at beta. Like everybody's different, but for me, this one was below. So I kind of had an indication, but
Okay, wait. So we connected before your fifth transfer. Did this happen after we talked, or this was right before we
I
talked?
think it happened
After.
after because I don't think I had started heparin yet. I think it was panic
Oh,
heparin.
yeah, we talked about like okay, so this was this year.
Yes. This was this year. This
This
earlier
is
this year.
so much for one person to go through.
Yeah. And hopefully I can, I'm almost there, I think, because that was what, 5? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we went back to the lab because I think we had one embryo left over, but it was one of our lower grade embryos. So we were going to wait till the end. They actually I don't want to say recommended, they gave us the opportunity to discard or do a compassionate transfer. And we declined and decided we wanted to do a medicated cycle and give it the best shot.
Especially after everything you've been through and still have eggs left to fertilize.
Yeah. Again, such a blessing to have eggs left to fertilize. Women who go through multiple egg retrievals are built different.
Mhm.
I don't know
Well,
if I
I
can.
mean, and you had like a really intense egg retrieval too. So like for me, I don't know, Amanda, like mine literally I had no pain. I was back to work like later that afternoon. I was fine, but I also only got 9 eggs.
Yeah, exactly. Same with me, but I have no eggs, so it's fine.
Hey, honestly though, regardless the amount of medicine you're on and all the
Yeah.
things, like our bodies are incredible. So, anyways, went back to the lab, fertilized our last 6 eggs, which was crazy. Um, we got 4. Again, a huge blessing. 4AB, 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 2BB. So, the 2BB and 3CC were the ones that they didn't, that they didn't know if
Right.
we should discard or not, kind of thing. They questioned. So, moved on to transfer 6. Medicated transfer heparin, full immune protocol at this point. He's like, okay, your body potentially, we need to suppress your immune system because I think it might be attacking your pregnancies. And like, that's what's happening here. Cause he's like, I don't have any other explanation for why these are implanting and then not continuing. So I did Plaquenil, which is a lupus medication. I don't have lupus and I didn't test positive, but they put me on that. I did prednisone every day. I did Pepcid. I did Zyrtec. I did intralipid infusions. So 7 to 10 days before transfer, day of transfer, 7 to 10 days after was the protocol. So we did a 4AB and 4AB embryo transfer, again, untested, and I got pregnant again, 6 transfer, and had a chemical around 5 weeks.
Oh my God, Lauren.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy. And so honestly, at this point, and I just want to say, like, my doctor, we had a journey at the beginning. Like, I just didn't understand fertility clinics. I didn't understand the chaos and stuff. I have come to love my doctor so much and be so thankful for the time. I mean, I can call him at 2 a.m. He will answer. Like, I can text him. He's in our corner and he was like, come to my office, and we're sitting down. I brought books. I brought books and books and books, and I brought research articles, and I was like, do I go to immunology? Do I fly to California? Like, what is our next step? What do you think? We wrote everything down. I sat with him for an hour and a half, and he is like, I just want to say this is extremely rare. He's like, I've been doing this for so long. This just doesn't happen. He's like, with no known reason, like no cause. He's like, he said, I knew the immune protocol was going to work for you because that's what's worked with my hardest patients. And he said the fact that it didn't, I don't understand. So that was hard, but he was very honest. And he was like, I consulted the other doctor. We're going back to like the basics, like everything. We talked about tons of stuff, but I asked him, I haven't done an Emma Alice ERA. Can I do that? Like, what can I change? What can we do different? So what we landed on, I was going to do a mock transfer medicated the following month, which is Emma Alice ERA. So they were going to take a biopsy. They were going to see if like bacteria was fine. And then from there, they were going to see if day 6 of progesterone's when I should be transferring. He was like, I'm pretty sure it is because you're implanting, but we're going to check. And then he said, after that, I'm going back to the basics. We're going to do a modified natural. Maybe your body, maybe it's this medicine, like let's kind of go back to the basics. So next month, mock transfer, did all the medications, but didn't actually transfer and did in the Alice ERA. Everything came back great. Like, he was like, in fact, you have great bacteria. I was like, what? Like, what is happening?
That's like good and bad because it's like, oh, I just not wasted this time. But it's just like it is a lot of time and you're still having to don't you do the progesterone? I forget.
Yes, yeah, you do everything. Yeah, the estrogen, progesterone.
You're like doing the shots and then like, oh, there's no reason, really everything's good.
There's no reason, you're good to go. And then so anyways, then this is my last transfer. Finally, I'm here, right? Transfer number 7. We did a modified natural at the beginning of October. I did all the same meds as medicated, but I didn't do estrogen patches. And I did estrogen pills later on than I normally would. So it was really nice. I stayed on heparin. Aspirin had been gone out of the picture for a little while just because of the hematoma. He had cut that. Then I did a trigger shot to actually ovulate because previously I haven't been ovulating. We've just been mimicking it with medicine. So we ended up transferring 3 embryos, a 4AB, and then the 2BB and 3CC, the 2 that they were questioning.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, he said we can do them all at once. And he said, don't call me if you get triplets. So I will take triplets, but also at the same time, like, shout out to people who have triplets. I don't know how you do that, but so ultrasound 7 weeks. I got pregnant.
Wow.
And 8 weeks pregnant, 9 weeks pregnant. Sorry. 10 weeks pregnant, 12 weeks pregnant, and I'm 13 weeks today.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Stop. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry, Lauren. Oh, that is so special. Congratulations.
I've literally cried.
Literally.
Yeah. I was like literally under the table.
Yes.
Like,
oh my God.
when you said 10 weeks, I was like, please do not have a miscarriage.
Yeah. So
sweet that we literally found out live like this. Like
you're some of the
know.
Y'all.
Oh my God. Congratulations. And so it's one.
How many?
Yeah, it's one. We won't ever know which one, but I mean, I assume the 4AB, but who knows?
But I just think that's so special that you were able to transfer the other 2 because that was so important to you.
Yeah, and that was our last. We went through 13 embryos, and that was our last 3. Yeah.
And that was also so important to you that you didn't have any left over. Oh my God. Oh my God, congratulations. Wait. So everything's okay right now?
Everything's great right now, but I am afraid every day of my life, every second of my life, every hour of my life, every pain, every time I say it, I'm like, is this real?
Literally like completely. I mean, the text messages I get from her, like, oh yeah.
We're literally exactly the same, I think. How far exactly are you?
13 weeks today, but on Tuesday my ultrasound, which guys, I've never graduated to an OB before. I graduated to an OB.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I saw an OB on Tuesday, and I was 13 weeks in one day measuring on Tuesday. So I'm like,
we are literally one day this is so weird. I'll be 13 weeks tomorrow, but on Tuesday, I've been measuring 5 days ahead. So this past Tuesday was 13 and
Oh
0.
my gosh, we're due like
You guys are
literally the
Yeah.
same. June, June.
Yeah, my original due date was June 23rd, but because I've been measuring 5 days ahead, they moved it up.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Wow.
that is so exciting.
Wait, this is the best outcome ever.
Yeah, I'm like so scared to even say it
I
because
know.
I'm
Oh,
absolutely terrified every week, every
I know.
ultrasound. I got an ultrasound every week, and I realized most
Same.
women don't. Like most
Yeah.
women, it's like 8 and then like maybe like 15 or something,
Yeah.
and you're just in this limbo. I'm like, how
Yeah.
How do you
I
feel
feel
about
very
it?
lucky, but
Oh
um,
Wait, so you're
my
still on the
goodness.
heparin. So you're still on the heparin?
yeah, actually, I wanted to ask you guys because I'm on heparin,
Yeah.
and my doctor told me I could stop at 12,
Same.
but I am
Same.
so panicked. I'm still taking heparin. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I was gonna ask, I have an MFM appointment Tuesday, but I'm the same. I'm taking it every other day now.
Okay.
And so I had stopped it at the Lovenox with Brooklyn, but I just for some reason can't do it this time. So I'm gonna ask on Tuesday. I just stopped taking the progesterone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I stopped taking the progesterone recently too, and
Yeah,
my symptoms went down because I didn't
yeah,
have progesterone anymore. And I panicked. I'm like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, it's happening again. And they were like, no, like everything's fine. So
Yeah.
I just need to tell myself that. But yeah, they want me to, or they told me I could stop it, and I really kind of pushed back, and I was like, can I keep on it, or can I switch to Lovenox?
yeah.
I saw y'all's story, and does it? Okay, I don't think heparin burns that bad, but
I was just gonna ask you, does it burn? Honestly, if it doesn't burn, don't switch. Like
is it immediate burn or is it burn as you? Oh,
it's
okay.
it's like when you push it in, and Amanda, if yours like it's when you're pushing the medicine in, it's like burning, but it's like a couple minutes after you're done, it goes away. So it's not like a
It's
continuous burn.
not, then it's fine. Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
it's just as you're doing it, and then I just now put the ice pack right on afterwards, and then it's fine.
Okay. Okay.
I would
Yeah.
just keep doing what you're
I
doing.
do what you're
Like,
doing here, probably.
yeah, so with Brooklyn, I did every other day. And then after like a couple scans of like the baby still growing, I went to like once every 3 days. And then I would like after a couple scans of everything, I just kept doing it until like I was doing it once a week and then I was stopping.
Okay, okay, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm just so nervous to everything. It's working right now. I don't want to
Yeah.
change anything, and
Yeah.
they understand, but they're also like, you don't have to do this and stuff. And I'm like, well, if I didn't have that one marker, that PAI 4G that like has me thinking,
Right.
like maybe that's why I've had so many losses since I have no other answer. I just don't want to cut it if it's what's helping, you
Yeah,
know?
my mentality is like it's a shot a day and it sucks, but like if you were to lose the baby, you're gonna be doing way more shots and like doing all this over again than just doing it for the 9 months. Like it,
100%.
just do it.
And
Yeah.
where do y'all inject it? Do you inject it in your stomach
In
or?
my stomach, and I like apparently you're not supposed to do it super close to your belly button, but I do. There's just not a lot, like all three of us aren't like super big people. And so
Right.
like you run out of room really quick.
I
You
just
really
have
do.
sides. I've
Yeah.
been switching sides every day. I don't know if
Oh yeah, I do every other side.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like once I stopped progesterone, because I think I don't even want to know how many progesterone shots I was doing over the last 2 years,
Oh
but
my God, and you were doing the
one,
shots. I was just
yeah.
doing the suppositories. Oh,
Oh, okay.
So
Well, either
bad.
way, that's still not fun. It's
yeah.
not fun. But yeah, once I stopped
Needle is like
those,
literally this big.
That's the worst.
oh my gosh.
Wait, I'm just over the moon thrilled for you.
Thank
Literally
you.
so excited.
Have you
Congratulations.
guys, you don't share, but have you found out the gender?
I haven't. So,
Oh,
well,
you
I
haven't?
say that. I don't know. I did this sneak peek test because my friend did it. And
Yeah.
I did it because I wouldn't let myself believe this until I got past 10 and a half weeks because that's the longest we've
Yeah.
been pregnant, I guess, even though we lost the heartbeat before that.
Yeah.
Um, then I was like, okay, if I get to 12 weeks, I'll like allow myself to even like think
Think that
about
this is,
this.
yeah.
So at that point, I was like, okay, well, we should probably, since I haven't taken pictures in 5 years because of the weight gain and everything else that's come with this, I just don't, I don't know, we don't do a lot, right? Everything's on hold because we're
Yeah.
constantly in an active cycle. So I got a photographer and I'm gonna take pictures and but I waited till like 12 weeks to find some, so it takes a little time to get in. So I think we're gonna take pictures in a couple weeks, and then
I'm
at
gonna be
that
praying
point,
for you and this baby every single day. This is just like one of the best outcomes to a story of.
oh.